So you're thinking of moving to a Tampa luxury condo community? In this video, I am going to share some great pros and cons of living in the beautiful and vibrant Harbour Island neighborhood. Be sure to stick around until the end as we'll dive deeper into the good, the bad, and everything in between so you can see if Harbour Island would be a good fit for your lifestyle. Now let's get started. If this is your first time on the channel and you want to know everything about living in a Tampa luxury condo community, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the Tampa luxury condo market and lifestyle. My name is Nathaniel Ligon, the Tampa Condo King. I specialize in representing luxury condo owners and buyers in Tampa, Florida. I get calls every day from people just like you, so whether you're looking to move in 10 days or 10 weeks, please reach out as all of my contact information is in the description box below. I would love to help you make a smooth move to a Tampa luxury condo community. Now let's take a closer look at the pros and cons of Harbour Island. Alright, we'll get kick-started with the first pro of this video, living in the Harbour Island neighborhood. So it is the location. It is in a prime location just south of downtown Tampa across the Garrison Channel. So you've got the Garrison Channel, the two bridges that go over that into Harbour Island would be Harbour Island Bridge on the west side and then the Beneficial Drive Bridge on the east side. So both of those allow access to and from Harbour Island. You're also very, very close to other big neighborhoods like South Tampa and Davis Island. So everything's relatively close, not to mention all the amenities that you have actually on Harbour Island. So we'll talk more about those in a second, but the location is very prime and one of the big pluses that residents have, and one of the reasons why Harbour Island consistently ranks as one of the top neighborhoods in all of Tampa and why it is so highly sought after. So location is excellent. You've got the marina, you've got hotels, you've got restaurants, you've got a lot right on Harbour Island, and then a lot more just within a quick drive. So you're also pretty close to some of the major roadways like the Selman Express or 275, even I-4. So all, relatively close. So depending on what your travel is on a day-to-day basis, very, very convenient to those major roadways. So Harbour Island is really a mixed use neighborhood, which is fantastic. So if you haven't seen my vlog tour of Harbour Island, I talk about the history a little bit more and what some of the visions were for the community, but I think they certainly have come to life with how everything has been developed. So you've got the northern tip of Harbour Island, more so north and west, that has the marina, has the Westin Hotel, and some great restaurants like American Social and Jackson's, among others. And then you've got the north neighborhood, so that's going to be really a mix of apartments, of condos, of businesses, offices, and much, much more. Again, the marina is a huge draw. So you've got the Seddon Channel on the west side and then Sparkman Channel on the east side. So more so the west side, you've got the marina and all the boating options. And then lastly, you've got the south neighborhood, which is really interesting because the south neighborhood is gated. So you've got the security and, the sense of safety there. And it is resident-only access, or if you're a registered guest. So it really has a great feel. The South neighborhood especially, you really feel like, you're kind of in your own little world, so to speak. You're really tucked away from the hustle and bustle of the other, northern part of Harbour Island, as well as going across the bridge into downtown Tampa. So it's really got a great secluded feel that residents really, really like. So some of the communities, for example, one that's in the south neighborhood would be Seddon Cove. And then for the north neighborhood, you've got some buildings and some homes that have fantastic views of the water of Garrison Channel looking into downtown Tampa. So one of those condo buildings, for example, is the Grand View. So just depending on your lifestyle and your goals, That will dictate whether you prefer to be on the north side or even the south side. But overall, Harbor Island's such an interesting community and such a highly sought after community, and the location tends to be one of the big reasons that that's the case. All right, so the second pro that we'll go over, and I alluded to it on the first pro, so it will be the amenities. So you have so much right on Harbor Island for your taking as a resident. So there's so much to do right on the island, whether it's any boating or water sport activities out of the marina, some of the great walking paths all across the island, as well as some great restaurants like American Social and Jackson's, among others. So there's really so much to do right on the island. They also have what formerly was Harbor Island Athletic Club and soon to be Lifetime Harbor Island. So that is an upscale fitness facility, upscale gym. So that's certainly a staple on Harbor Island. So you've got so much right on the island, and for a relatively small island with only about 4,000 residents, you're really getting all of the big city amenities, but still more of a smaller feel. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it'll depend a little bit if you want to be on the north end of Harbor Island or the south end, but ultimately as a resident you've got access to so much, not to mention you're just potentially a walk, bike, or just a short drive away from downtown Tampa, and all of that has to offer. So pretty close by, you've got Tampa Convention Center, which is right at the southern tip of downtown Tampa, right before you get onto Harbor Island Bridge. And then on the other side, you've got Amalie Arena, home to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and a multitude of events, from concerts and even other sporting events like college sports as well, whether it's college basketball tournament games or really a wide variety of events. So that area is always happening and always a lot going on there. So just the amenities that you get, overall quality of life, the overall value that you get from being a Harbor Island resident is really apparent, and one of the biggest reasons why it's so highly sought after. So a ton of amenities, again, right on the island. You're also very close to other major amenities too. So perhaps if you don't want to, live right in the heart of downtown, but you still want to take advantage of a lot of amenities and attractions, Harbor Island could be a great fit for you, especially if you want to be just slightly tucked away, I should say, from some of the hustle and bustle. Harbor Island could be a great option, and the amenities certainly are one of the biggest pros for the neighborhood. So being in a great location and having a neighborhood that offers residents so much, that will bring me to our first con, and that is the traffic. So that is one consistent con that I hear among residents of Harbor Island, is the traffic. So as you can imagine, being so close to some of the big attractions like the Tampa Convention Center, Amalie Arena, and then all the hotels too in the area, there's really just a lot going on. There's a lot of construction happening. Sometimes there's road closures as well. So ultimately, you've got the two bridges, as I mentioned. So Davis Island, in comparison, only has the one main bridge in and out. I would say Harbor Island is just busier, again, because you've got Tampa Convention Center right there, the hotels, and then Amalie Arena, as well as several restaurants, whether it's the southern tip of downtown or the northern tip of Harbor Island. So you've got a lot going on. I would say just be aware of the event schedule and what's going on. The Tampa Bay Lightning, for example, have 41 home games a year, so it is quite busy, and that's just regular season, not to mention, probably a few preseason games as well as potentially postseason. They've had a great run of success, so they've consistently made it deep into the playoffs. So 41 games could expand even more. So roughly the season takes place, around October until April, potentially a little bit longer, just based on how deep they go in the playoffs. So just important to understand what events are going on. And I think the other good part about living on Harbor Island is that typically whichever community you're in, you're probably going to get some sort of email update or some sort of newsletter telling you about, the upcoming schedule of events, or even, just road closures happening. I know as a South Tampa resident, even though I'm not on Harbour Island, I still travel there quite a bit. So I typically just look at the city of Tampa on social media, so usually on Facebook, and just check things out. They usually have some good updates on events that are coming up and then road closures that are happening because of it. So like anywhere else, just planning accordingly and, understanding the traffic patterns and if there's potential detours. Overall, I think the quality of life and the amenities and the location ultimately exceed the potential con of traffic. But again, it is something that seems to be consistent among residents, with the traffic being a con. So just something good to be aware of. And if you prepare accordingly and you kind of get your rhythm and the flow down for how traffic is, and just depending on your daily schedule, potentially adjusting accordingly if you can. But otherwise, certainly being in a prime location like that, there's going to be some traffic. So just something to consider as you continue to explore options. Another great pro about Harbour Island is the availability. So interestingly enough, for a small community and one that's so highly sought after, a lot of people think that, well, there's probably not a lot of options available because it is so small, because it's just such a highly sought after area compared to, for example, Davis Islands. When I did that particular video on the pros and cons, there were 34 properties available. Now, most of them were single family properties. Only 3 of them were condos and 6 of them were townhomes. So that's pretty much flipped on Harbour Island. So especially if you're a condo buyer, this will be really good news for you. Just right now, for example, there's 18 properties available on Harbour Island, and 15 of those are condos. So there are options, especially for my condo buyers out there. So believe it or not, with how highly sought after the neighborhood is and how small it is, there are a good amount of options available still. So let's have a conversation and talk through what works best for you and what your goals are, what your lifestyle is, and perhaps you will be able to indeed purchase in this neighborhood, whereas some others like Davis Island tend to be really exclusive, and between the price points and the availability can be very difficult. So, and we'll talk more about pricing in a second, but the availability, especially for condos, is definitely positive. So the idea and the dream of potentially living here is definitely realistic, and look forward to helping you explore options and being able to make this happen if this is of interest to you. So availability, definitely a pro for Harbour Island. It is difficult coming up with cons for some of these neighborhoods, especially Harbour Island, but I do my best to give you a full picture of the overall community. So I might be reaching a little bit with this one. Maybe to some people it's not a con, but one of the cons that I'll point out is the lack of new construction options. So again, this might not necessarily concern you. I do have some buyers that are really keen on new construction. So whether it has just been built in the last year or two, or options that are even to be built, some people are really interested and drawn to new construction. Now, I will say Harbour Island doesn't quite have those options available like some of the other neighborhoods that I specialize in. So even Davis Island doesn't have much, but there are some newer townhomes, and there are newer single family homes as well, people that perhaps torn down and then built new construction. So there are some options in terms of condos, not too many. Then the other areas like South Tampa, on the Bayshore side, there's new construction condo buildings. On the West Shore side, there's also options. And then of course, downtown Tampa as well. So if you're really keen on new construction, let's talk about that and see if some of the options on Harbour Island could be a fit, or if you do indeed want to explore some of those other areas. I will say some people are relatively surprised though, if they really wanted new construction, but they just really like the location of Harbour Island, the overall feel of the island, and the amenities. Sometimes they're willing to go with a condo building that's a little bit older because the other pros kind of outweigh that. So again, we'll just talk one-on-one to see. All right, so we'll talk about it and learn more about your needs and see how we can make the best fit, whether it's Harbour Island or any of other neighborhoods. So just to put it into perspective though, on Harbour Island, because the development didn't start really until 1985, you're not going to find any home options that are older than 1985. They start at about 1987. So the newest building is Plaza Harbour Island. So I did go over that one in a little bit more detail on my neighborhood vlog. That's somewhere around 2011. So again, still relatively newer. That's why I said it might be a little bit of a stretch calling it a con, because ultimately some of these buildings, whether they were late 80s, 90s, or even early 2000s, a lot of them have tremendous amenities. Some of the actual individual units, of course, have been updated over the years. Some of the amenities in the buildings have been updated. So that's why I say it's usually good to just consider this, because you might be thinking you definitely want new construction, and you come to, a 2005 build condo or 2010, and you find that it matches all of your needs. So just something that I wanted to point out as a potential con. The last pro that I will leave you with living on the beautiful and vibrant Harbour Island neighborhood is the value and the affordability. So I alluded it to a little bit regarding the availability. So there are actually options available, and you may not necessarily have to break the bank. Davis Islands, for example, when I pointed out those 34 properties, average list price was 3.7 million. So way over the average in Tampa, many times over. So that neighborhood ultimately is going to be more exclusive, of course. Harbour Island, though, not that it's, the average price point, right? It's still about a little over double average price point of Tampa, but those 18 properties I mentioned that are available right now, you're looking at an average list point just over $1 million, 1.01. Now you might be thinking, wait, Nathaniel, is that really affordable? $1 million? The reality is, though, the bottom 9 of that list, so the bottom half of the list, those 9 properties were between $350,000 and $585,000. So that's going to be awfully tough to find on Davis Island, or really a lot of other areas that offer as much as Harbour Island. So some of those condos were, of course, ones that were 1 bed or 2 bed, somewhere around 900 to 1,400 square feet. But that could be a great option for someone that is right around that average price point. If you're, considering that, and that's kind of right in your wheelhouse, and it's going to be hard to find too many other options with as much value as you get from being a resident on Harbour Island. So definitely something to be happy about, that not only is there the availability to where, there's actually enough options to where it could work for you. Also, just the pricing makes it a lot more manageable for a lot of people. So again, if you want to be somewhere where maybe you have a little bit less home, tremendous location, you've got fantastic amenities and just a great quality of life, Harbour Island does have some great options for you. So I think that's definitely positive, the fact that there are some good affordable options out there. So again, just depending on your situation, your lifestyle, this could be a great fit. And I know a lot of people are excited to be able to call Harbour Island home and to actually have it be within reach. All right, that'll do it for today's video as we explored the good and the bad, the pros and the cons of living in the beautiful and vibrant Harbour Island neighborhood. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you got some great value out of today's video. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions, comments, or feedback. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to check out my other videos regarding Harbour Island so you get an even better picture of living in that community. As always, if you're looking to move in 10 days or 10 weeks, please reach out to me. All of my contact information is in the description box below. I would love to help you make a smooth move to a Tampa luxury condo community. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.